Many people thought this midterm election was going to be a red wave, but this morning we still don't have results for many key races. This morning, officials in Georgia say it's safe to say there will be a runoff between Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. The Nevada Senate race still remains a toss-up, and in Arizona, the race between Mark Kelly and Blake Masters is too close to call. And it's the same story in Wisconsin.
Well, so far, Democrats scored a Senate win in Pennsylvania, where John Fetterman beat Dr. Oz, flipping that seat blue. But Republicans are celebrating Senate victories of J.D. Vance in Ohio and then Ted Budd in North Carolina. Here to discuss the balance of power in Congress is Washington correspondent for News Nation, Evan Lambert. Welcome, Evan.
Thank you for having me.
Yep, great to see you. So what races are you looking at closely as we try to figure out where the balance of the Senate is headed? It's still obviously up in the air, although Republicans not having the exciting night that many expected or hoped that they would.
Yeah, and I think Democrats really took that over, I guess, with that flip in Pennsylvania. John Fetterman claiming victory there and projected to win. We just understand from the Oz campaign, or the Fetterman campaign rather, that Dr. Oz called to concede this morning. So it seems that's where the energy is with Democrats. But of course, you have these outstanding races that are just too close to call in those really tight swing races, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and those are the ones that everybody is watching when it comes to the balance of power. Now, before Election Day, obviously had 50-50 Democrats with that slight majority with the tie-breaking vote of Vice President Kamala Harris. So Democrats have to hold on to 50 seats and Republicans had to gain one to get that majority. And it really comes down to those races that are just separated by thousands of votes, tens of thousands of votes we're talking about.
We've been talking about the Senate a lot today, but it's also unexpected what's going on in the House. Obviously, just historically, it's expected that in an election year when the party of the president is going to lose tons of seats, kind of irrespective of who the president of the United States is or how popular they are. Obviously, Barack Obama oversaw a horrific for Democrats' red wave in 2010. And Biden is actually doing better than his predecessors here. Can you speak to that a little bit and what you might attribute that to?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously in the last few weeks especially, but really months, we have heard Republicans say that this was going to be a red wave, and we've seen that really has not come to fruition. Obviously, you have the historic political wins that favor the party that is out of control in this midterm when there's a Democratic president or when a president's party has full control of the government with the executive and the Congress. But really that hasn't come totally to fruition. And I think past presidents, you mentioned Barack Obama has called it, what happened there, a shellacking. I don't think that really anyone can describe what happened last night, at least right now, when you still have these races that are down to the wire, quite that. It looks like our partners here at News Nation with Decision Desk were projecting something around a pickup between 15 and 30. So I guess Republicans would like to see that number go even higher, 30, 40. And it just seems like we're not going to see that with Democrat, especially incumbents that held on to their seats. Comes to mind is Abigail Spanberger in Northern Virginia. That was a really important race and one that Republicans thought they could make waves with, and they just didn't.
Yeah, we've got, we've been talking a lot about political outcomes. Obviously, we should, discuss that we're looking, as expected, probably at divided government with, Republicans maybe taking by a much smaller margin than expected, but still looking like taking the House. What does that mean is headed to Washington, or out of Washington, rather, in terms of the policy outlook? Are we in for that kind of partisan gridlock that has become familiar for every time we get outside of the first 2 years of a president's administration when the other party comes back into play?
Yeah, I think for most people, especially outsiders, Washington is synonymous with gridlock. And it seems like that's what we're set up for with a divided government here. And if we think that Democrats are going to hold on to the Senate and Republicans will take the House, then certainly not much is going to get done with President Biden's agenda for the remainder of these 2 years, especially when we know that the Republicans have been outspoken, if they have a majority, with holding things up with investigations. They've talked about investigating Hunter Biden. They've talked about investigating the DOJ and FBI. There are some people, I guess, on the more extreme end of the Republican Party that want to see an impeachment of several officials all the way up to President Joe Biden. So it just depends on, I guess, how much traction that gets, and likely to get less with such a slim majority that is now looking like it's going to come into shape as opposed to this windfall.
Yeah, I saw some conservative commentators opining that Kevin McCarthy is in trouble. Minority leader was expected to deliver bigger gains this time around. Have you heard any of that scuttlebutt?
I know that that's the talk. People obviously expected him to have a better play at Speaker of the House, the wider the majority ends up being in the House, if that comes to fruition, which it looks like it might. So it's possible that he could be in trouble or forced by some of the more conservative parts of the Republican Party to go a certain way. But I think from what I've seen, a lot of people are saying that if he does have, relatively safe majority, then, they believe he will end up being Speaker of the House. Remains to be seen.
And Senate side, obviously, there's been a lot of anti-Mitch McConnell talk from Trump world. Trump has this feud with Mitch McConnell, but Mitch McConnell, who said candidate quality matters, and had tried to set expectations lower because he was concerned that some of these kind of Trump-picked candidates were going to be losers. That looks like a good prediction, and I can't imagine now he'll be facing. Maybe he was never going to face any challenge, but I'd heard some talk that maybe with this incoming wave of more Trump loyal Republican senators, you could have Rick Scott make a play or something like that. That seems very unlikely to me now. What's your read of the situation?
Yeah, so obviously people have been talking about kind of that internal battle between Rick Scott, who's heading up the campaign arm of the Republican Party, and Mitch McConnell. And clearly, I think Mitch McConnell is probably taking a bit of a victory lap, especially when it comes to his prediction that candidate quality was really going to be something that plagued the Republican Party, especially in these tight Senate races. And so, if anybody's in a better situation, it seems to be Mitch McConnell between the two of them. And he kind of gets to say, "I told you so."
Evan Lambert, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
We'll have more Rising for you. Stick around.